Good afternoon. If you were not able to uh, watch the announcement of the grand jury indictment, which was handed down by the Jefferson County grand jury, subpoenaed in this case, then here are the findings or the outcomes. The outcome is that the grand jury has issued a criminal indictment, meaning they feel that, there is enough evidence at this time to go forward with the criminal prosecution of Brett Hankinson. He is charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment in the first degree, which in the state of Kentucky is a Class D felony. A Class D felony in the state of Kentucky carries a possible maximum punishment of 1 to 5 years in prison. The judge issued a $15,000 full cash bond, which we know if he doesn't already have it, he will have it, because there are a lot of supporters of the police and those who believe that what these officers did were in fact not illegal, but as a newspaper story reported earlier, there was the officer that emailed about 1,000 police officers and said that what they did on that night was legal, ethical, and moral. His words, not mine. And so Brett Hankinson is charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment in the first degree. It is a Class D felony, which means that the highest level of punishment can be 1 to 5 years in prison. So that doesn't mean that that's what he's going to get. That means that that is a possibility. There is also a possibility he could be acquitted, or he could have the case dismissed, or he could plead guilty to a lesser included offense. The other possibility is that he could get probation if either he pleads guilty or if he is found guilty. As it relates to the other officers, Jonathan Mattingly, Miles Cosgrove, and Brett Hankinson. I just said Brett Hankinson. As it relates to Jonathan Mattingly, Miles Cosgrove, and there is another officer who actually signed the affidavit to get the search warrant. I can't remember his name. They have not been charged with any form of murder, reckless homicide, murder in the second degree, murder in the first degree, no charges like that. The only charges have been wanton endangerment in the first degree, which carries a possible outcome or sentence of 1 to 5 years in prison. Now, understand a couple of things. I was not the only attorney, but myself and some other colleagues, particularly my sister-in-law, April Prayer, we said that this was not going to happen. And so we said this was not going to happening for a number of reasons. One, because of the long ass time that it took for the Attorney General, who is on the president's short list to be a Supreme Court justice and who is a Republican, who we know Republicans are very strong on law and order. We knew that no indictments were going to come down as it related to the taking of Breonna Taylor's life. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when it comes to grand jury indictments, there are some things that I want you to know. And then I'll answer all the questions or comments that are on here. The first thing that I want you to know is that, and I'm speaking for Illinois, so Kentucky may be different, but I'm going to speak as it relates to Illinois. For Illinois, first of all, grand jury testimony is only presented based upon what the prosecution presents. So if the prosecution is not seeking any murder charges, then it is likely that no murder charges will even be considered because the Attorney General did not present it. So I feel that the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, did not even present evidence or criminal charges as it relates to any degree of murder, any degree of homicide. I don't believe he did that, because I believe if he had done it, then the judge would, as the judge does in Illinois, the judge would say, okay, grand jury, what do you believe about these particular charges? And in Illinois, they say true bill, which means there's enough evidence to proceed, or they would say no true bill, which is we don't believe enough has occurred. And grand jury testimonies are usually reduced to an official court transcript. So attorneys are able to review the transcript to see what has been testified to make sure that if there is a trial in the future, they are able to look and see, is what the witness testifying to the same as what they are saying today? Because if they are saying something different, then they are subject to what is called impeachment, which is where the attorney now says that this witness is not to be believed because this witness is either misunderstood or this witness is lying. Okay? So, in short, I don't believe that the Attorney General presented any other charges than what was presented. Now, of course, in Kentucky, it might be different. The judge may not have to read those indictment charges if there is no finding by the jury. So I don't know as it relates to Kentucky. But I know in Illinois, whenever there is a an indictment by a grand jury, according to the transcript, they will ask the grand jury and the foreperson will say, true bill, we find enough evidence at this time for the prosecution, or we don't find enough evidence. Okay, that's the first thing, or that's the thing that comes to mind. So let me read your questions or comments. Yes, still no justice. Oh, here's the second reason why I knew there was not going to be any indictments against the officers for any type of murder. They started boarding the community. Okay, they started boarding the community. And so historically, according to folks, you have to think about how the enemy thinks. They're not going to board up downtown Louisville and the surroundings if in fact these officers are being prosecuted, because now there would be the argument that white people are just as capable, or people who support law and order are just as capable of destruction, of looting, as persons of color. So when they started boarding up downtown Louisville and they started setting curfews and they started saying that we're going to unleash the National Guard, that was your cue. That was your cue, because they presumed that we, those who are supporters of justice for Breonna Taylor, for Ahmaud Arbery, for George Floyd, for Atiana Jefferson, for so many blacks who have been murdered, who have been gunned down by law enforcement, doing what they were supposed to be doing what the law allows them to do, or being in their own home, them being murdered and either being found not guilty, not having charges brought against them, or they're being found guilty, but being found guilty of lesser included offenses. You're not going to board up the city. You're not going to bring the National Guard out unless you believe there is a perspective and a segment of the population who is going to be pissed off at the outcome. So when they started boarding up all of these stores and downtown and things of that nature, that let me know right there that they knew that people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. It has already been over 6 months since any type of announcement as it relates to criminality of these officers has occurred. And Daniel Cameron think he's slick. But what's going to happen is someone is going to get a hold of that grand jury transcript, unless it is sealed or unless the judge puts a gag order which says that you can't talk about it or you can't release it. Okay? But this is why he has been so quiet. There is no way that a Trump nominee to the Supreme Court on a short list is going to suggest or mention that criminal charges be brought against the police officers. not when you are trying to be part of an administration that is enforcing fear by saying we need to be cognizant of law and order. This is the same president who went to New York City and told state enforcers by way of law enforcement that if someone is suspected of gang activity, when you arrest them and put them inside the police car, if you bang their head against the roof of the car, that's okay. So you have the commander-in-chief, the head federal executive of the United States, of the quote-unquote free world, telling New York officers, the same officers that killed Eric Garner, the same officers that killed, now I can't think of his name. You have these same officers who are from the department that he is saying, go slap them around. Again, this is the same police force that this president took out a full-page ad in the New York Post, I believe it was, and told the 5 young men in the New York jogger case, the exonerated 5, that they should be put to death. Okay, are you connecting the lines here? So this is why it is no surprise to me while there is no criminal charges of death against Breonna Taylor. I'll tell you what else. Usually what happens, at least in my experience, is that the criminal case happens first before the civil case happens. So the criminal case, usually because it's a higher level of evidentiary burden or proof, if someone is testifying in the criminal case, you can use that same testimony in the civil case. But because there was a settlement, the settlement awarded the family $12 million. Of course, mice and millions that you got to pay for legal fees and all that type of stuff. By the time the family gets it, I promise you, it ain't going to be no $12 million. Okay? So the civil side is already done. That was my second indicator, or rather my third indicator, that wasn't no murder trial, wasn't no murder charge is going to be coming down. Okay? Because you got to watch the signs. You got to watch the signs. Kyle, I agree with you. I can't either. So not being charged, hey, Lamb, so not being charged for the actual mother. No, there are no murder charges. None whatsoever. The only criminal charges which the grand jury indicted on, which they were saying, we believe there's enough evidence to prosecute this person, is wanton endangerment in the first degree, which on the higher end of sentencing is 1 to 5 years in prison. On the lower end of sentencing is probation. And that's if he doesn't plead it down to an even lesser offense, or if he goes to court or goes to trial and there's a finding of guilty or a finding of guilty on a lesser included offense. So there are no murder charges. There's only one charge in 3 ways. Okay? So it's not that he did wanton endangerment 3 times. It's saying that there are 3 ways in which he could have done wanton endangerment. In the same way I say, how many ways can I get into my house? I can get in my house through the door. I can get into my house through the window. I can get into my house through the crawl space. I can get into my house through the attic or the roof. But as long as I get into the house, that's what the focus is on. So with Brett Hankerson, the focus is saying that he committed wanton endangerment in 1 of 3 ways. But any of those ways could ultimately get him a sentence. The higher end is 1 to 5 years in prison. The lower end is probation. Okay. What is wanton endangerment? I can look it up real quick, or you could Google it real quick. This is what I do. I type in wanton endangerment in the state of Kentucky. Okay. I have not gotten there yet, so I don't know what that is. I was trying to let my disgust come to a level where I could communicate online what has happened so that we are aware of that. So while I am typing, I'll tell you what wanton endangerment is in the first degree. Are you ready? Because my hands are quick. A person is guilty of wanton endangerment in the first degree when, under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life, he or she wantonly engages in conduct which creates a substantial danger of death or serious physical injury to another person. I'll say it again. A person is guilty of wanton endangerment in the first degree when, under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life, he or she wantonly engages in conduct which creates a substantial danger of death or serious physical injury to another person. And wanton endangerment in the first degree is a Class D felony. Okay, so Sora, I hope I answered your questions. Yes, Carla, you know, I had said probably in earlier broadcasts and definitely on early lives, and I know my colleague April Prayer has said the same thing. We knew it was not going to be any murder charges. The further along that this investigation took, and the more that came to light about who Daniel Cameron is and how he is related to the current administration, I was like, oh, hell no, ain't gonna be no murder charges. And then when I saw them starting to board up downtown, let me tell you something about courthouses. Courthouses always got somebody who's talking. Always got somebody who is talking. And so something got out either from the courthouse or from the Attorney General's office and say, look, y'all better protect what you think matters because these folk is going to go crazy. Okay? That's why they brought in National Guard. That's why they're establishing a curfew. That's why they're telling business orders to start bordering what they own and what they run up. Okay? Yeah, they anticipated that black people at a full, absolutely, which is even more stereotypical and archetypical. Okay? I'm trying to say archetype in an adjective. Okay? It's more than a stereotype. It's an archetype, which is when black people get angry or when people who fight for justice get angry, the first thing that we go to is the destruction of communities. Okay? That's a whole nother laugh for a whole different time. Okay? But somebody knew something, which is why they started taking these steps. Okay? Let's see. Is Petty and telling? Yes, you know he ain't going to jail. Yeah. Lamb, I hope I explained that for you. Okay, wait. The charges are because the officer shot in someone else's apartment. I'm listening to the coverage, and they gave initials for the people who had wanton disregard. BT was not listed in the group of initials. Yeah, I heard the judge say the initials. And so what I am guessing or what I am presuming is that the initials of the person who was mentioned, this is an apartment building. So this was not a standalone apartment or a standalone house. And so what I am understanding without hearing any other reports is that maybe the way in which he shot his gun was wantonly endangering others in the apartment building, not just Breonna Taylor and her boyfriend at the time. But again, I have to look and see what the commentary is. Okay. 2 of the officers are being charged with absolutely nothing. Hey, cousin, the one being charged is basically only being charged with discharging his weapon. Equivalent to walking outside and shooting in the air. And you know, in the state of Illinois, walking outside and shooting in the air is reckless discharge of a firearm. Okay, which of course gravity pulls the bullets in the air and it pulls it down so someone can be injured. But just the shooting into the air is, yes, it is something to you know, what you described. Okay. Hey, Scholar. Hey, Cap. How you doing? So it sounds like none of this has anything to do with Breonna Taylor. If that officer hadn't shot into other people's homes, it sounds like there wouldn't even be a charge. I'm disgusted. Black lives clearly don't matter. You're right. Green lives matter. Green lives in terms of money. And the money that mattered was paid out in the settlement. And so in my argument, in my professional belief, the settlement was kind of like okay, well, we know whether they disclose it to the family or not. They knew that you weren't going to get this. So at least get that. If you think about it, look at all of the settlements that the city of Chicago has engaged in as it relates to, well, we would rather pay for the civil liability to try it than try it in court, which is a person's rights. And we still don't know what was presented to the grand jury. We don't know the evidence or the testimony. We don't know how long they deliberated. We don't know who was on the grand jury, but there are certain inferences that can be made. Okay? And I'm here to tell you what those inferences are. Okay? We all know that this is one that God will have to take care of. Vengeance is mine, said the Lord. I believe you, Miss Lucas, but I will tell you this. The God I serve needs my help. And I just put it like that. The God I serve needs my help. God needs my help in voting. God needs my help in demonstration. God needs my help in understanding what the law is so that I know the trickle-down effect, so I know the connections, so I know how an attorney general is appointed versus how an attorney general is elected. So if someone is appointed an attorney general, then I have to figure out, do I elect the person that is appointing the attorney general? I need to pay attention not just to federal elections, but also to state elections, because I am more impacted quicker by state legislation and state referenda than I ever am in federal. Okay, that is not to say I'm not affected at the federal level, but it's the state decisions that matter. It's the state decisions with referenda, with utilities, with stores being fixed, with property taxes, with schools being funded, with my streets being filled. Those are things that affect me on a state or a local level. And so, yes, while I understand the vengeance is mine, the Lord needs my help. That I've felt that way for a long time, is that, sometimes God empowers me, and empowers you, or empowers us to be the physical manifestation of justice. And we got to start paying more attention to what is going on in front of us, as well as what is going on in plain sight. Okay? That's just me. Hey, Judge, how you doing? It is a damn shame. Hey, Kyle. Yeah, look, I'm hot. And I'm hot. Have I cursed yet? I probably have cursed twice, but I have not really said when I wanted to say, hey, Sister Amy. Yeah, God needs our help. And yes, it is a, what's the term? Interdependent, Dr. Galt, where we need God's help and God needs ours. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Where there are some things that I believe now, as a person of faith, I believe that there are some things that only God can do it. As the song said, only God can do it, only God can do it. I believe that. I also believe that there are some things that we are asking God, well, when you going to do it? And God turns around and says, well, when you going to do it? Okay? God can't register to vote. God can't complete a census. God cannot vote folk out. That's what God has empowered us to do. That's my point. So I completely agree, and that it is a both and. Yes, God is in it somewhere. Where? I couldn't tell you. All I can tell you is what I can control, and what I can control is how I demonstrate my fury, how I demonstrate my anger, and how I demonstrate my intelligence, which is, there is a spectrum of how persons can respond to this. You can respond by way of education. You can respond by the sharing of information. You can respond by writing letters. You can respond by protesting. You can respond by taking yourself down there and engaging in social distancing and wearing of masks, because we still have the pandemic going on. You can demonstrate your rage and your frustration in a myriad of ways. Okay? And so I'm not saying which way it is. All I am saying is, it is high time, it is beyond time, that we continue to recognize how we can speak truth to power. And there are a myriad of ways. And so intelligence, or rather not intelligence, but access to knowledge. Okay, I'll put it that way. Because someone can have all the intelligence in the world. But if you do not provide the access to others who don't know where to go, don't know how to get to where they go, then the information only rests with you. And who is that going to help? Who is that going to benefit? Okay? Ms. Lucas, you are right. Of course, some of these we cannot resolve, which is why we're voting. Then when we get enough votes, then we put people in place to handle things. Yes, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think I'm more expanding upon what it is that you were saying, which is, from my upbringing under Reverend Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright Jr., where when I joined Trinity and there was that sign on the front lawn that said Free South Africa, that was not just we're going to wait on God. That was, we're going to trust in God, and we're going to watch, and we're going to fight, and we're going to pray, and we're going to register, and we're going to protest. So it was the joining in God and saying, okay, God, we see or may not see what God is doing, but we know what we're going to do. Okay? And to not disqualify anyone who does not have the faith tradition, that's all I'm going to say on that. Hey, Ronald, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. You know, I had to come on and be like, okay, let me tell y'all the skinny of what's going on, because if you are not watching already, your timelines, your newscasts, your radio, your podcasts are going to be filled with nothing but discussions about this particular location, this particular outcome. It's going to be a lot of people that are going to be commenting. There are going to be some facts and some fiction that you're going to be presented. And so I feel it is my job, my calling, to be one of a few voices that comes on and tells you this is what it said. Now this is what it means. Okay? And anytime there is someone who is gauging in that type of commentary, you know I share it on my personal page as well as on Legalese Please page. Okay? So that is my initial beliefs, if you will, or understanding about what has occurred. Do not please mistake my calmness for acquiescence. I am just still trying to be professional in the moment, but please understand I am still enraged, but I am not surprised. And my lack of surprise does not lessen the necessity for me to still do justice, okay? And to do it in a way that provides knowledge and access, that provides the ability to trust and the ability to act, okay? So I don't want to occupy any more of your time. Oh, thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it. I don't want to occupy any more of your time because this was a pop-up. As soon as I saw the press conference, I mean, by the time we logged on, we had to log back off because they was done. And when the judge finished, I laughed like, oh, that's it? Oh, okay. And the comments that, I was looking at, they just let the website have it. Or rather, they let the judge and the grand jury have it. But those are my initial findings, my initial explanation in review. Only one of the officers was charged with anything. He was charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment in the first degree. First degree wanton endangerment is a Class D felony. At the higher level is 1 to 5 years in prison. At the lower level, it is probation. Okay? And again, I sincerely believe that the Attorney General was slick because the grand jury proceedings are confidential in nature. I believe that he only presented certain evidence to get this outcome. So yeah. Oh, he's talking right now? Okay. Are hearings of this magnitude usually this quick? It depends. Grand jury hearings can take a few hours. They can take a couple of days, or they could take a couple of weeks. And it really all depends upon what evidence is presented, when the jury is convened, and what evidence is presented, when the jury is convened, Oh, and the severity of the charges that are presented. This right here, in my opinion, as a litigator and as a professor, it don't take a long time to say, oh, this person basically created substantial danger or risk that could have caused harm to somebody. That don't take a lot of folk. At the most, I'm thinking the majority of witnesses that they probably had, I wouldn't go past 6. If it was more than 6, I'd be surprised. But with this, it's not anything to me that is complicated. Particularly, and I'm gonna tell you why I don't think it's complicated. I don't think it's complicated because the majority of this case was already tried in the media. And who watches or reads the media? Potential jurors. Okay, so potential jurors, in my opinion, already formulated a position before they even were subpoenaed to be on the grand jury. That's my opinion. Okay? All right. So I said I was going to go. Now I'm going to go. I'm going to go for real. I would just say continue to pay attention to what the commentators are saying. And I will be watching this case as well. And then, there's going to be a legalese pleas that is going to be dedicated solely to this issue. All right. So do me a favor. Click like, click share. When you see things that are on your timeline that are false, just address it or don't address it. But if you share it, then those who are spreading misinformation can just watch this video and know what the truth is. All right. So you all take care. You be blessed. Be safe. Like I said, like, love, share. Send this video to whomever. This is just a very general explanation. I'll get more into the specifics as I learn more information. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a legalese on Friday. All right. So you all take care. Bye-bye.